there's this general consensus amongst rabbis about how you approach giving a sermon during the first year at your new synagogue. The thinking is you spend the first year basically talking about nothing. Okay, well, I shouldn't say nothing, but I should say that rabbis are taught to avoid unnecessary controversy at first. During that first year, we should stay on easily agreeable topics from the Bima. Talk about love. Give a sermon about friendship. Dwell for 10 minutes on joy. The new rabbi should be uplifting, but neutral, inspiring, but maintain a certain, shall we say, vanilla quality to her words. Spoiler alert, tonight is not one of those sermons. It's not that it's a bad approach. I actually think it's a good approach, and it makes sense. It allows time for us to develop our bond. It shows that the sanctuary is a sanctuary, a safe space to express ideas. It shows that you can trust me. I will make you happy. I will help you notice the good in the world. I will provide comfort. And I do hope that there will be many sermons along the way that fit into those categories. However, I am sorry to tell you, I am officially declaring last week's sermon the equivalent to 1 year of sermon giving. Because you and I, we don't have that kind of time. You know why? We're in the midst of a crisis. We are savaged by a deadly physiological virus, but also by the sicknesses of racism, homophobia, xenophobia, and anti-Semitism. We don't have time for me to sit here and offer you flowery platitudes. It would be beneath the moment. So I'm going to ask you to go on that journey with me and give it a chance as I take this platform and use it for what is most needed right now in our world, to talk about urgent moral issues in an urgent moral way from a Jewish perspective. So this week when I sat down to write this, I was really troubled by something, and that's what I want to talk to you about tonight. I can't get it out of my mind. Who knows, maybe you saw it too, and you can't get it out of your mind. Did you see this cartoon that came out this past week or so? It depicted the governor of Kansas in a face mask, emblazoned with a Jewish star in front of what I think was a photograph of Jews in Nazi Germany. The caption read, "Lock down Laura," that's the governor with the mask, put on your mask and step onto the cattle car. The image equated the mandate to wear a face mask with the mandate for Jews to enter a train designed for animal transport, where we were taken to enslavement, torture, and murder in Nazi Germany. The cartoon has since been taken down and an apology was reluctantly issued. The cartoon is grotesque and a misuse of our history. It diminishes the definitive chapter of our shared past. It is selfish, not recognizing the Holocaust for evil in and of itself, but instead turning it into a vehicle to object to a modern policy that differs exponentially in context and severity. It's an easy, obvious example of an egregious wrong. But I've noticed a growth of Holocaust imagery and references lately, and they don't all fall into the category of the cartoon. And that's where I want to linger tonight. The question is it ever okay to invoke the Holocaust if you are not actually talking about the Holocaust? If you're citing the Holocaust as a vehicle to talk about something else, is there ever a time when that's acceptable? I'll give you an example. After the atrocities of the Parkland school shooting in 2018 in Florida, the surviving teens developed a powerful mantra: never again. I'll say it once more: never again. The very same language to talk about the Holocaust, a government-sanctioned, years-long effort to destroy us, not by the tens or the dozens or the hundreds or the thousands, but by the millions. If those two words become the rallying cry of an anti-gun violence movement rather than related to our story, do we view that as positive, as negative, or as somewhere in between? One more example. The anti-racist movement has evoked the Holocaust to help talk about the deep offense related to the persistence of Confederate monuments. Activists point out that Germany doesn't have any monuments to Nazis, so why should the United States have monuments to leaders of the Confederacy? Even if you object to the equivalence there, the question still stands. Are there times when it is okay, even useful, for other movements to cite the Holocaust if it helps to further justice? How should we feel about allowing lessons from our trauma to help ease others' pain? Like any good rabbi, I'm going to argue both sides of it for you. If you think it's never okay to talk about the Holocaust when you are not actually talking about the Holocaust, then you would be in good company. The United States Holocaust Museum writes that, quote, an oversimplified approach to complex history is dangerous. In other words, calling someone a Nazi, comparing modern events to Nazi Germany, comparing modern leaders to Hitler, or using images of the Holocaust to talk about something besides the Shoah normalizes the greatest crime in human history. Neither the political left nor the political right seem above grabbing for these metaphors to make their point. And it's dangerous. It creates a reductive, flattened image of the Holocaust. It obscures facts. It diminishes the personal nature of the destruction. It changes the Shoah, an intimately horrifying crime perpetrated against our people, into a synonym for the word bad. Frankly, it's also a matter of religious intellectual property in a sense. If we allow our story to be controlled by others, then we are opening the door for a slew of misunderstandings at best, and an onslaught of Holocaust denial and anti-Semitism at worst. On the other hand, if, however, you think that sometimes the Holocaust can be spoken about when it's not actually the subject of conversation, but rather a vehicle to talk about something else, you too are in good company. There is a reason we say never again. It's so that it happens never again. And that doesn't mean for Jews only. It means that the very nature of how we memorialize the Shoah understands itself as a teaching tool. We do Holocaust education so that other people can turn our tragedy and our trauma into their triumph. We want people to understand our pain and our process towards recovery so they can fare better than we did. Anne Frank, a hidden child, wrote, "How wonderful is it that nobody need wait a single moment before starting to improve the world." If our history can help other humans, then it should start right now. So as I said, this sermon is not really the second sermon I wanted to give. This sermon was maybe number 22 or something like that. But in this tricky time, where memes fly across our face at breakneck speed and rapid fire posting is part of our political expression, we must spend the time to dwell on where we are in the midst of it all. How should our story be told? And who should tell it? These are the questions to ponder during Shabbat. Shabbat Shalom.